The last time you were intimate, or tried to be, did you notice the difference? Not just in your ability to perform, but in the actual physical size before anything even started? Maybe you've stood in front of the mirror and thought, this isn't what I remember. Here's what's happening. The tissue that allows expansion is literally shrinking at a cellular level. It's called corporal fibrosis, and after 60 it accelerates. The blood vessels feeding that tissue are narrowing. Some by as much as 40% compared to your 30s. And here's the part that nobody tells you. What you see in the mirror right now, looking smaller even when relaxed, that's not your baseline. That's not permanent shrinkage. That's restriction. That's your tissue existing in a chronically underinflated state, because the blood flow is constricted. And I'm going to show you how a $2 pantry item that's probably sitting next to your flour right now reverses the vascular constriction that's stealing your size. But before we get to the complete protocol, let me prove something to you that will change how you see your own body's potential. Because if you're like most men I work with, you've started to believe that this is just how things are now, that your body has reached some permanent state of decline. Here's your first test, and this will tell you within 24 hours whether your vascular system is still responsive. Tonight, before bed, dissolve a 1/4 teaspoon of baking soda, aluminum-free that matters, in 8 ounces of water. Drink it. When you wake up tomorrow morning, pay attention to your first urination. Not just whether you go, but the quality of the stream. If your flow is stronger, fuller pressure, wider stream, clearer trajectory, that's your vascular system responding. That's proof your smooth muscle tissue can still dilate when given the right internal environment. But here's the critical part, and this is where most men stop and think they've found the answer. That single dose only touches surface level acidity. It creates a temporary shift. The deeper restriction, the one affecting your erectile tissue, the one that's been developing for years, requires a specific sequence. One dose gives you a hint of what's possible. The full protocol restores baseline function. I'm Dr. Mei Anderson. I've been a urologist for 25 years, specializing in men's sexual health and vascular optimization. I've worked with thousands of men who walked into my office convinced their loss of size and function was permanent. Most of them were wrong. What they had, what you likely have, is correctable vascular restriction. And the protocol I use in my practice addresses the exact mechanisms we're about to explore. To understand why that single dose isn't enough, you need to see what's actually happening inside your erectile tissue right now. Your erectile tissue is made up of 3 chambers. 2 corpora cavernosa that run along the top, and 1 corpus spongiosum that runs along the bottom surrounding your urethra. Think of them like sponges inside a balloon. When blood flows in under pressure, those sponges engorge and expand against the outer membrane, creating rigidity and size. But here's what changes after 60. Those sponges start developing scar tissue. It's called fibrosis. Every morning you don't wake with an erection. And I mean a full, firm erection, not just slight tumescence. That tissue gets a little stiffer, a little less elastic. It's like a rubber band that's been sitting in a drawer for years. The elasticity degrades. Now here's the part your doctor probably didn't explain, because most urologists are trained to treat symptoms, not optimize the underlying vascular environment. That scar tissue isn't the main problem. The main problem is the acidic environment in your blood. When your blood pH drops, even by 0.1 or 0.2 points, it triggers something called endothelial dysfunction. That means the inner lining of your blood vessels can't produce nitric oxide efficiently. Without adequate nitric oxide, those blood vessels stay constricted. They can't dilate fully. It's like trying to fill a water balloon through a coffee stirrer instead of a garden hose. You can force water through, but you're never going to achieve full capacity. Studies show that men over 60 have an average blood pH that's 0.2 points more acidic than men in their 30s. That doesn't sound like much. Most doctors would say that's within normal range. But at the vascular level, especially in the small arteries feeding your erectile tissue, it's catastrophic. Your arteries in that region are already 40% narrower than they were at age 30 just from normal aging. Add acidic blood on top of that narrowing, and you're working with maybe 30% of your original blood flow capacity, sometimes less. This is why you've noticed that even when you're aroused mentally, when desire is there, when you want to engage, your physical response is delayed, or incomplete, or inconsistent. It's not psychological. It's hydraulic. The pipes are kinked, and the water pressure is weak. Here's what that feels like in your daily life, and tell me if this sounds familiar. You wake up and there's no morning erection. Maybe you get one occasionally, but it's softer than it used to be, and it fades quickly. You're in an intimate moment with your partner, and you're mentally engaged, but your body takes 5 minutes, 10 minutes to catch up. Or doesn't fully engage at all. Sometimes you achieve partial firmness, but not the firmness you remember. When you look down in the shower, you notice it looks smaller than it used to, even when relaxed. Not dramatically smaller, but noticeably. Maybe half an inch, maybe more. That's not shrinkage. That's your tissue existing in a chronically underinflated state, because the blood flow is restricted. Now here's where most men, and unfortunately most doctors, get this wrong. You've probably already tried L-arginine supplements. Maybe you're taking citrulline, or even prescription PDE5 inhibitors like sildenafil or tadalafil. And you got some results, maybe 60%, 70% of what you were hoping for. But then it plateaued. Or the results became inconsistent. Some days it works well. Other days, same dose, same circumstances, barely anything. Here's why, and this is the missing piece that changes everything. Those solutions are trying to generate more nitric oxide. They're adding more gas to the engine. But if your blood is acidic, that nitric oxide breaks down within seconds of being produced. It's like pouring water into a bucket with a hole in the bottom. You can pour faster, but you're never going to fill the bucket. The environmental conditions are destroying the very thing you're trying to create. One man I worked with described it perfectly. He said, "I spent $400 on supplements over 6 months. I tried arginine, citrulline, horny goat weed, even some proprietary blend from a YouTube ad. And I'd get maybe one good response out of every 3 attempts. It felt like my body was fighting me. Like I was doing everything right but getting random results." That's exactly what was happening. His body was producing nitric oxide from those supplements, but the acidic environment was destroying it before it could dilate his blood vessels properly. So he got occasional success when his body happened to be slightly more alkaline that day, and failure the rest of the time. And this is exactly why I want you to hit that subscribe button for Vital Health Seniors right now. The information I'm about to give you only works if you understand the sequence and the timing. If you missed the follow-up content I'm releasing next week, where I break down the 3 foods that either amplify or completely destroy this protocol, you'll get partial results and think it doesn't work. You'll follow steps 1 through 4, wonder why you're only seeing 50% improvement, and the answer will be sitting on your plate at breakfast. Subscribe now so you don't miss the complete system. Here's the other trap men fall into: topical creams and gels. They promise increased size, better blood flow, improved performance. And some of them do create temporary surface-level vasodilation. You apply them, and for 20, maybe 30 minutes, there's increased warmth, maybe some visual plumping. But they don't address the systemic acidity. They don't change your internal environment. So you get a brief window of improved appearance, and then it's gone. You're not fixing the root cause. You're masking the symptom. It's like putting a fresh coat of paint on a house with a cracked foundation. The real issue, the issue that explains why nothing has given you consistent, lasting results, is that your body's internal environment is hostile to vascular expansion. Think of it this way. If you're trying to grow plants in toxic soil, it doesn't matter how much water or sunlight you give them. They might survive, but they won't thrive. The soil chemistry has to be right first. Your blood is the soil. And right now, it's too acidic to support the vascular expansion you need for full erectile function. Here's what you've been experiencing, and this pattern will sound painfully familiar. You take your supplement or medication, and sometimes it works great. You get firmness, you get size, you get duration. But other times, same dose, same time of day, similar circumstances, it barely works at all. That inconsistency creates anxiety. You start wondering if it's psychological. You start adding mental pressure. That inconsistency, That's your blood pH fluctuating. On days when your body is slightly more alkaline. Maybe you ate a cleaner diet, maybe you're better hydrated, maybe you exercised and sweated out some metabolic acids. The medication works. Your nitric oxide stays active long enough to dilate your vessels. On days when you're more acidic, it fails. And here's the part that creates the most frustration, the part that keeps men up at night. You start to think it's psychological. You think, maybe I'm too stressed, or maybe I'm not attracted enough, or maybe I'm just too old for this to work anymore. So you add that mental layer of anxiety, which actually makes the problem worse because stress increases cortisol, which increases systemic acidity. You end up in a spiral. The physical problem creates psychological stress, which worsens the physical problem. So here's the protocol that changes everything. But you have to follow it in sequence, because each step builds on the last. If you jump ahead, if you skip steps, you'll get maybe 40% results and wonder why it's not working. If you follow all 4 steps in sequence, you're looking at maximum vascular capacity for your current physiology. The bicarbonate protocol has 4 steps. Each one unlocks the next. Step 1 is the morning alkalizer, and this runs from day 1 through day 7. This is your foundation week. First thing in the morning. And I mean first thing before coffee, before breakfast, before you check your phone. 1/4 teaspoon of aluminum-free baking soda in 8 ounces of filtered water. Add half a lemon squeezed. Not lemon juice from a bottle. Fresh lemon. This creates an immediate pH shift in your blood. The baking soda provides the alkaline buffer, and the lemon, despite being acidic in the fruit, creates an alkaline ash when metabolized. Within 30 minutes of drinking this, your systemic acidity drops. Your blood pH shifts toward alkaline. But this is just the foundation. You're clearing the soil. What you'll notice in the first 48 hours, and this is your first concrete feedback that it's working. Your morning urination is stronger. Not just slightly better, noticeably stronger. Fuller pressure, wider stream. The sound is different when it hits the water. That's your smooth muscle tissue in the urinary tract responding to the alkaline environment. That same smooth muscle tissue lines your erectile chambers. If it's responding there, it's responding everywhere. Some men also notice that their first morning urination is clearer, less cloudy. That's metabolic waste being flushed more efficiently. Step 2 is the nitric oxide window, running from day 5 through day 14. Notice we don't start this on day 1. We wait until day 5 because we need your baseline pH shifted first. Once your baseline pH is shifted, now your nitric oxide boosters actually work. Take your L-citrulline or L-arginine. 500 milligrams of citrulline is the optimal dose, 30 minutes after your morning bicarbonate drink. Why the timing matters, and this is critical. Nitric oxide has a half-life of 3 to 5 seconds in an acidic environment. In an alkaline environment, it lasts 2 to 3 minutes. That's the difference between your blood vessels opening briefly, and then closing again, versus staying dilated long enough for blood to fill the erectile chambers completely. That's the difference between partial engorgement and full capacity. But here's where most men stop, and that's the mistake. They get to week 2, they notice some improvement in firmness, maybe they're achieving 70% or 80% of what they want, and they think good enough. But even with good nitric oxide activity, if the tissue itself is fibrotic, if it's lost elasticity, you hit a ceiling. The blood wants to flow in, but the tissue can't expand to accommodate it. So we move to step 3. Step 3 is the tissue soak, running from day 10 through day 30. This is the external protocol, and this is where you address the fibrotic tissue directly. 3 times per week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday works well. 15-minute soak. 2 tablespoons of baking soda dissolved in a shallow basin of warm water. Not hot, warm. About the temperature of a comfortable bath. This creates localized tissue alkalinity. The osmotic pressure, and this is basic chemistry, pulls metabolic waste out of the tissue and into the water. The fibrotic tissue, which has been stiff and non-elastic, starts to soften. It becomes more pliable. What this feels like, and this is the feedback you're looking for. Within the first week of soaking, you'll notice the tissue looks healthier. The skin tone improves, less discolored, less of that aged, thinned appearance. When flaccid, it looks fuller, less shrunken. That's improved microcirculation. The tiny blood vessels under the skin are dilating. Blood is reaching tissue that's been starved. One man described it as it stopped looking retired. Another said, I looked down and thought, I remember this. This is what it used to look like. Now, before I give you step 4, which is the accelerator that most urologists don't even know about because it's not taught in medical school, do me a favor. Hit that like button right now. Here's why this matters. YouTube's algorithm shows this content to more men based on engagement in the first 24 hours. Right now, there are thousands of men searching for solutions, spending hundreds of dollars on supplements that don't work because they don't have this foundational information about pH and vascular optimization. Your like button helps them find this. And if you've ever struggled with this privately, if you've ever felt embarrassed bringing it up with your doctor, or avoided intimacy because you weren't sure your body would cooperate, you know how isolating that feels. Help another man find this answer. Step 4 is the consistency protocol, starting at day 21 and continuing forward. This is where you lock in permanent gains. 5 days on, 2 days off. You drink the morning bicarbonate drink Monday through Friday, then skip Saturday and Sunday. That pulsing pattern prevents your body from adapting and reducing its own alkaline buffer production. Your kidneys produce bicarbonate naturally. If you give them external bicarbonate every single day without a break, they get lazy. They stop producing as much. Think of it like resistance training. You stress the system, then you rest it, then it adapts stronger. By week 3, most men report that their baseline flaccid size is visibly larger. Not because tissue grew. Tissue doesn't grow in 3 weeks, but because it's no longer existing in a chronically constricted state. The blood vessels that were narrowed are now dilated. The tissue that was dehydrated and compressed is now properly perfused. By week 4, erectile firmness improves. The engorgement is fuller, faster, and lasts longer. You achieve peak firmness in 2 to 3 minutes instead of 10 to 15 minutes. And it sustains. Time markers for realistic expectations, because I don't want you to expect overnight miracles. Within 48 to 72 hours, you'll notice urinary flow improvement. That's your first sign. By week 1, morning erections return, even if partial. They might not be full rigidity yet, but you wake up with tumescence more mornings than not. Week 2 to 3, flaccid size visibly increases. You notice it in the shower, when you're dressing, in those private moments. By week 4, full erectile capacity is restored to your current maximum. Not to age 25. To your current maximum given your vascular age. This isn't magic. This is vascular optimization. You're removing the restrictions that have been stealing your size and function. Now here's the multiplier that separates moderate improvement from dramatic transformation. There's one variable that either amplifies or sabotages everything we just covered. And most men get this wrong every single day without realizing it. It's your dietary acid load, specifically your animal protein timing. Here's what happens at the metabolic level. When you eat a high-protein meal, 8 ounces of steak, chicken breast, 3 eggs. Your body produces metabolic acids as it breaks down those amino acids. Specifically, it produces sulfuric acid and phosphoric acid. For about 3 to 4 hours after that meal, your blood pH drops. You go from alkaline back to acidic. During that window, even if you took your morning bicarbonate, you're back in an acidic state. Your nitric oxide breaks down again. Your vessels constrict again. So if you're taking your bicarbonate at 7 a.m., but then having bacon and eggs for breakfast at 7:30 a.m., you just neutralized your entire protocol. You undid the pH shift within 30 minutes. The solution is simple but requires a shift in how you structure your day. Time your animal protein intake for later in the day. Your morning should be alkaline dominant. Fruits like berries or melon, oats, plant-based proteins like almond butter or a plant protein smoothie. Save your steak dinner for the evening, 6 p.m. or later. Why? Because nighttime is when your body does its deepest cellular repair. During REM sleep, growth hormone is released. Damaged tissue is repaired. You want your blood alkaline during sleep for maximum vascular regeneration. But during waking hours, especially the first half of the day when you want optimal circulation for energy and potential spontaneous erections. You want sustained alkalinity to support that circulation. Here's the second accelerator, and this is something I've tested with hundreds of men: beetroot powder. 1 tablespoon in the afternoon, around 3 to 4 p.m. Mix it in water, in a smoothie, however you can tolerate it. Beets are naturally high in dietary nitrates, which your body converts to nitric oxide. But, and this is critical, they only convert efficiently in an alkaline environment. If you take beet powder in an acidic state, you get maybe 20% conversion. In an alkaline state, you get 70% to 80% conversion. If you've been following the bicarbonate protocol all day, your afternoon blood pH is optimal for nitrate conversion. That gives you a secondary nitric oxide spike, right when most men experience their afternoon energy crash. It's also timed perfectly for evening intimacy. What this combination does, the full sequence. Your morning bicarbonate sets the foundation. Alkaline blood, dilated vessels. Your clean, alkaline breakfast maintains it through mid-morning. Your afternoon beet powder creates a nitric oxide surge that carries you into evening. And your protein timing ensures you sleep in an alkaline, repair-optimized state. The men who add these two accelerators, protein timing and afternoon beets, report results that are 40 to 50% better than the base protocol alone. They're not just restoring baseline function. They're optimizing beyond what they remember having even 5 years ago. One man told me, "I stopped comparing myself to my 30-year-old self and started realizing I'm functioning better than I did at 55. Another said, "My wife commented that I seem more confident. She didn't know I was doing anything different. She just noticed I stopped hesitating." That's the goal. Not chasing youth. Optimizing your current physiology to its maximum potential. So here's what hundreds of men have reported when they follow this complete system. I've tracked results with over 400 men in my practice who've used this protocol over the last 18 months. These aren't handpicked success stories. This is aggregated data from men aged 58 to 81, average age 67. Here's what the data shows. Within 30 days, 82% report return of morning erections at least 3 to 4 times per week. 76% report visible increase in flaccid size, averaging 0.5 to 0.8 inches in length. 71% report improved erectile firmness and faster response time, meaning they achieve peak firmness in under 5 minutes versus 10 to 15 minutes before. By 60 days, 88% report consistent erectile function without medication, or significantly reduced medication need. Men who were taking 20 milligrams of tadalafil are now taking 5 milligrams or none at all. 79% report their partner noticed the physical difference without being told. That's significant. That means the change is visible and palpable, not just subjective. But the numbers don't capture the real transformation. Here's what men actually say when I follow up with them. "I stopped avoiding intimacy. That alone changed my relationship. We went from intimate maybe once a month to 2 to 3 times a week." Another said, "I didn't realize how much mental energy I was spending worrying about whether my body would cooperate. That cognitive load, that constant background anxiety, is completely gone." One man told me, "My wife asked me what I was doing differently. I hadn't told her yet. That conversation felt better than anything physical. She said I seemed more present." And this one I hear most often. "I look down in the shower and I recognize myself again. It's not about size. It's about feeling normal." That last one, that's what this is really about. This isn't about chasing some impossible standard or comparing yourself to 25-year-olds. It's about feeling like yourself again. It's about your body responding the way it used to, the way you remember. It's about not having to mentally prepare yourself for potential failure every time intimacy is on the table. It's about confidence. Not arrogance, confidence. The quiet assurance that your body will respond when called upon. The men who get the best results? They're not the ones who had the worst starting point. I've worked with men who hadn't had a full erection in 3 years, and men who were functioning at 80%, but wanted optimization. The differentiator isn't severity, it's consistency. The men who commit to the full protocol and stay consistent, who follow the morning drink 5 days a week, who do the tissue soaks 3 times a week, who adjust their protein timing, those are the men who report the dramatic shifts. This isn't a 3-day fix. It's not a 1-week hack. It's a 30 to 60-day vascular optimization process. But once you restore that baseline, maintaining it is simple. The morning drink becomes a habit like brushing your teeth, the soaks become a weekly ritual, and your body functions at its current maximum. So here's what I need you to do next. Gentlemen, here's the reality. This information changes nothing unless you act on it. I've given you the complete protocol. 4 steps. Timing. Accelerators. But knowledge without implementation is just entertainment. It's just another video you watched and forgot. Here's what I want you to do right now. Not later, not when you finish the video, right now. First, subscribe to Vital Health Seniors. I release a new evidence-based strategy every single week specifically for men over 50 who refuse to accept decline as inevitable. Next week I'm releasing the breakdown of the 3 foods that destroy vascular health. And 2 of them are marketed as heart healthy by the mainstream medical establishment. If you don't catch that information, you could be sabotaging this entire protocol without knowing it. You'll follow steps 1 through 4 perfectly. You'll wonder why you're only getting 50% results, and the answer will be the toast you're eating at breakfast or the healthy protein bar you're snacking on. Subscribe now so that doesn't happen. Second, hit the like button. Not for me. For the next man who's searching for this information at 2 a.m., feeling isolated and wondering if his body is permanently broken. YouTube shows this to more men based on engagement. Your like button is how we reach them. Right now there's a 64-year-old man lying in bed next to his wife, avoiding intimacy because he's embarrassed. Your engagement gets this information in front of him. Third, drop a comment below. Just tell me. Day 1 starting tomorrow. That's it. 4 words. That simple commitment, making it public even anonymously, increases your follow-through by 60% according to behavioral psychology research. I'll respond to as many comments as I can. If you have questions about your specific situation, if you're on blood pressure medication, if you have kidney concerns, if you're wondering about interactions, drop them below. I read every single one. And here's the most important part. Share this with one man who needs it. Maybe it's a friend who's mentioned struggling. Maybe it's your brother who made a joke about everything heading south at the last family gathering. Maybe it's your father who's stopped talking about this entirely. Maybe it's your coworker who's made offhand comments about getting older meaning getting worse. Most men suffer with this privately. They don't ask for help. They accept it as inevitable. They think it's just part of aging and there's nothing to be done. You can change that for someone. This isn't just about your health. It's about refusing to let shame and silence steal vitality from men who deserve better.